Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Meta Cafe. Grab your cup of coffee or your tea, sit back, and let's chat about what's happening in the stars today. If you're up early like me, then this morning you were hopefully looking out your window or out your front door and saw the most spectacular sky, especially if you had clear skies like we did this morning, where you could just see the last crescent of the old moon and the planet Venus sparkling like a diamond up there in the sky. They were, as our vision looks maybe a foot apart from one another. And I was able to take a picture. And of course, a picture never does it as much justice as it looks in the sky. It was awe-inspiring. And then I can see out my window right here. I wish I could show you guys. It is so clear and so sparkling and so cold that Mount Rainier, which is literally 110 miles at least away from me, is sitting right there as if it was, I don't know, an hour's drive. I don't know, but it's just one of those mornings that makes you go, oh, I'm so glad to be on planet Earth and to be able to see the beauty of some of the things around us. So I hope you were able to take a look. If you didn't get a chance, I did post a picture of what I could see. But of course, those pictures just never do it justice, just never do. So anyway, good morning to everybody out there. I see you, Debbie. Good morning. Mimi, good morning. And Vanita, good morning. And Michelle Gay, good morning. It's great to see you ladies out there this morning. Good morning, Michelle Brooks. It's good to see you too. And Mimi, unbeknownst to you, I used you as a guinea pig, which you've given me permission before to do. And I was sure you would be here this morning. So I want to show people an example of some of the information that we can glean in a chart when we know what we're talking about in terms of your new moon, your personal new moon versus the regular new moon. Remember, we talked about this earlier, I think it was last week, when we were talking about the personal new moon versus the real new moon, the full moon, your personal full moon, etc. So this morning I thought, I'm going to take somebody's chart and I'm going to show what it looks like in your chart to see a full moon and to see your new moon and the regular new moon. So I apologize because I sort of messed it up a bit, but I'm thinking you're still going to be able to get the gist of it. So let me show everybody here. Mimi, I hid your information so no one can steal your identity. I'm not sure that they could do that anyway. So in this chart here, what we're looking at is Mimi in orange and in purple, the actual moons. Let me see if I do it this way, if it's more clear. That's about as clear as I'm going to get it, guys. I'm sorry. And it may be clearer in the video to you guys, but to me, it looks a little foggy. So here we have Mimi's personal new moon, which occurs at 23 degrees of Virgo. So Mimi, then by definition, the first quarter moon is going to happen when the moon is 90 degrees away from where it was when you were born. That puts it up here. So if you look at this is in the house of healing and health and work. So it shows that, your moon, your soul in the sign of Virgo is really good at working, maybe even planning your work, doing your work, liking to work, to be busy, to do, something with your hands, to be physically involved with what you do. And then the first quarter moon for you comes right here at about 23 degrees then of the sign of Sagittarius. That's your first crisis of action. And in your chart, that's happening right here, right in the next few days, actually, here in the boundary between the 8th house of transformation and the 9th house of growth and expansion. So the first crisis of action that you're going to meet with your personal new moon is sitting in a place this month where you're going to be determining, where do you go next? What's your next growth pattern? What is the next thing that I'm going to do? Your full moon then comes 90 degrees later. The personal full moon happens right on top of your natal Mars. Your natal Mars sits at 23 degrees of Pisces, and the personal full moon is sitting there as well. So every month, your full moon, your personal full moon, sits right on top of Mars, and that's going to give you energy of action and doing and of creativity, like a creative jumpstart happens here, where you get clarity, where you get suddenly that aha or that epiphany that shows you what direction you're going to go. And then your last quarter moon happens down here. This is the crisis of consciousness where internal blocks come up. And that happens somewhere between the house of self-worth and money and the house of action on the mind. Either way you look at it, your crisis point may always be about what you think about what you're doing and whether it feels good to you about what you're doing. And then you come back to your personal new moon anytime the moon crosses 23 degrees of Virgo. So that is your set pattern. So you could use that as the model of how it is that your moon rolls through the chart. Now, what is going to happen here is that it's always going to be on different days because the moon doesn't always come to 23 degrees of Virgo on the same day. So we just happened to notice that this month when we looked at the new moon and we realized, oh gosh, we're going to have personal new moons today. And there you have it. And then if you look, then the purple dots give us the idea of where the moon itself, its own transit through its cycle are for you this month. So right here we have the new moon, and it's in it's pretty dang close actually to your first crisis of action point, right? So the new moon may be opening the collective new moon for you, maybe opening the doorway, revealing something to you about the direction to go, maybe where you've been sort of stuck on an external level as to where to go. And then it will come over here in its first quarter phase and be very close to your personal full moon. And then over here, very close to the crisis of action, or your personal full moon. And then over here, your crisis of consciousness at the full moon. So you're sort of walking in, like the dial is just 1/4 off for you in this month. And that might mean you feel a little bit out of lockstep, but there are literally almost two things each time. So you had the new moon, and then right after that was the new moon. And you had the full moon the full moon, and then right after that was your crisis of consciousness. So anyway, I did that very quickly this morning just to sort of show you what we can sort of look at in a chart if we're looking at the moon for timing. Cool stuff. Any questions about that, guys? Good morning, Colleen. Good morning, Laura. Good morning, Willa. Good morning, Cindy. Good morning, Diana. And Jacqueline, good morning to you too. Vanita says, beautiful sky, but I can't see as much as you can. I think it's because I live on an island, so there's the water, right? And there's not much in my way. Trees, to be sure, but up I could see really good this morning. All righty, so today we have the moon in Scorpio all day long. And it is a day that takes us to a point where we must use our intuitive faculties. We are thinking more in alignment with our gut, let's say, and not so much with our minds. It is a day for some intensity of the feelings that we're experiencing emotionally. It is a very creative day, right? There's a lot of water energy available today. And it is also a day for making a connection to the people in your world. Good morning, Vicky. Okay, hold on. Somebody's confused. Where did she go? Cindy. Oh, I am confused on all of what you just said. It's jumping around. Sorry, Cindy. I'm looking at my chart, but not getting this because you would have to have looked at your own chart, Cindy, to discover what your moon pattern is. I was just pulling up a chart to show what the potential is when you know where your own moons are and where the transiting new moons and full moons and quarter moons are going to be. Gives you insight into, why some days may be more difficult than others and why other days may just be easy breezy and why it's not always predictable as to when that's going to be unless you really know your chart. So yeah, there's nothing you could look at in your own chart except maybe your own natal moon placement, and we could figure that out. So it is a deeper study, to be sure. It isn't something that, we can all just get by looking at Mimi's chart, but it gives us an idea. It's a concept that I'm working with for you guys. Does that make sense? All right, so let's see here. Vicky Edmondson, good morning. Hi, can you help me with my chart for some direction, please? I won't have time today, Vicky, to look at charts, but well, actually, I might. So hold that thought. And Jacqueline says, can I email you later to get more information about what the houses and the planets mean? Absolutely. Colleen, so there's two we track, the moon itself and our personal moon, which is where the moon was when we were born, correct? Yes, Colleen, exactly. So what we realize when we look at our own charts is that unless you were born at the new moon, your personal moons are askew from what's happening in the sky. And on a periodic basis, those moons come into alignment with the new moon will actually occur at your personal new moon. That's a stellar beginning, right? That you could look back at your life and find where you had points at which huge new beginnings were happening for you. And that's likely, when we check that out, we might likely see that your new moon and the collective new moon were all in sync. That happens periodically, about every 18 years or so. I'm going to check that and make sure. But the point we're trying to make here is that there are these two cycles and they're sort of interlocked. And every once in a while, they click into place and they're exactly together. And then they separate and then they come back together. But it gives you this inroad into what's happening for you personally each and every month because you have your own cycle. Okay. Is that understandable? Good morning, Stephanie. She's happy to be present with us today. Been sharing your page a lot lately. So many good things coming to my life. Thank you so much. I don't know what happened, maybe because I shared that personal experience with people yesterday, but I was getting showered with love from Debbie writing a beautiful recommendation to people emailing me and saying, I've had that happen too. I hope you're not taking that personally. Blah. It was awesome. Texting me, messaging me. So thank you all for the love. It has really been amazing to me. And it's amazing the number of people that actually have that same experience in their lives where someone comes along and, upsets your life in some way, whether it's a chance comment or an action they take. And it can take you down a path. The path it should lead us down is that of healing, because I wouldn't, like I said yesterday many times, if I didn't have some kind of belief around that incident, or that the truth of what that person was saying to me, then it wouldn't have caused me any kind of reaction. I wouldn't have been personally invested in what it was that was being said. And that's the really cool part about this, is that we're always able, if we take the moment to breathe before we react, to see what it is that's being brought up for us and how it is that we can then work through that information. And today's going to be another one of those kind of days. In fact, I think what happened to me on Sunday is probably part of a bigger thing that is happening with the planet Chiron. And I don't know if Ellie is in here this morning, but Ellie brought up the point one day that she tends to experience things a little bit before everybody else does. And I see that happens to me as well in my chart in some cases, right? And I bet it happens to all of you in some cases. You're either experiencing things a little before or a little bit after. And that's based on, of course, the power of your own personal chart and where things are happening for you. But there's this, I'm going to show it to you because maybe if I show it to you, you can really connect to it. You can see that purple trine. This is a triangle, obviously, but it's a trine. So in this trine, we have the planet Mercury still in retrograde until the end of the week. And it is in a smooth flow of information sharing with the North Node, which is now in the later degrees of Cancer. And it is also flowing quite nicely, if you ask me, with the planet Chiron. And it is all about our being able to be communicated, the wound being able to be communicated to us to get back on the right path of our own personal destiny and more healing, right? Healing, communication, getting back on our own path, healing, communication, getting back on your own path, healing. And part of that healing is at Chiron is sitting at 27 degrees of excuse me, of Pisces. And that is where we are still dealing with the victim energy, with the mentality of I'm a victim. And the idea that some people are out there trying to be martyrs. And so victim energy is the energy of, I'm the victim or I'm the martyr, right? I'm the martyr. I'm going to carry my staff forward. I'm going to do all this work for free because that's what, good people do. So I martyr myself to my work or to whatever it is I'm martyring myself to. And I move forward with that. Well, that's not power, right? That's not really power. That's just another side of the coin of victim energy. The other side is that I succumb to the victim mentality where I blame others for my inability to get where I want to go, or I'm always in some way, throwing out to the world, whether I'm blaming the world, I'm blaming my childhood, I'm blaming my spouse, I'm blaming my children, I'm blaming whatever in my outer world for holding me back. That's victim energy. And that is what we are revisiting in a big way, have been for the last several weeks. And today we just happen to have the node at 27 degrees of Cancer, Chiron at 27 degrees of Pisces, and Mercury retrograde at 27 degrees of Scorpio. So what we have is a perfect water trine. It's emotional, it's deep, it's intuitive, and it is sharing information from deep within us. And that can be from the mind, which is Mercury. It can be from the emotional Chiron in Pisces, and it can also be from the more safety, security, scared energy, fear. It can be the fear energy that the North Node can be triggering for us in Cancer. So interesting day, right? That's happening. At the same time today, we have a nice trine. Trines are, by the way, an ease and flow of the energy. Now, does that mean it's always happy-go-lucky? No. It could be that this energy of the wound is very close to the surface and it can be painful. But it can also mean that this is a huge opening for you to finally be done with this, to really look at it and let it go. But it can also be beneficial, right? It's beneficial, I think, to be able to find out where it is you're being held up or where things aren't working correctly for you, to find out where it is you're still playing victim, maybe, and to be able to heal that. So that's very positive, I think. We may experience it as emotional, as a little bit of turmoil or chaos, but in the end, it really serves us well. And other times, it's really difficult to see this kind of pattern. Right now, it's right in our faces. Other times, a trine can be glossing over what's going on. And we don't want that. In Scorpio, we're not going to get that. In water, we're not going to get that. We're going to want it to come up. The moon in Scorpio today is trining Neptune and Mars in a very close conjunction. They're not exact yet. They will be on Friday, but they're getting ever closer to one another. And here is where we are waking up to something in some way, right? To something that is deep within you that maybe needs to come to the surface. So we have these two sort of trines working together to help us clear out some stuff. So today's not really a good day in terms of, wanting to be all, happy and carefree, but it really is very creative and it is very intuitive. And it's also very passionate energy. So when we align with the things that we love to do, we can use this energy much better than when we want to sit on our pity potties and, belabor all of the things that have happened to us in our lives or all of the things that we're having to deal with, etc. Let yourself off the hook and align with something else today that makes you feel good. So we are really working with that inner wound. Everybody has Pisces and Scorpio and Cancer somewhere in their charts. And wherever those three are taking up time in your chart, or residence in your chart, are the houses where that's being focused. So, and the reason I don't talk much about houses in the mornings about the charts of the day is because it's skewed to me pulling a chart for where I live, and I pull it at a specific time every day, pretty much, I mean, within an hour. And so the chart is going to line up house-wise almost the same and for long periods of time. So it doesn't really do me any good to have a conversation with you about the house that this is happening in collectively. But it is a very interesting conversation to look at in your own personal chart and discuss what houses are being affected. So when we're talking, let's just use this chart for example. If this was a person and I'm looking at this trine and I see this trine happening in what is the 8th house and destiny, I would say, wow, you are up for a transformation here. This is the house of death and rebirth, and there is change, something crucial happening here. Hopefully it's not born out of a trauma drama, but often when we are resisting change, something will happen that really wakes us up and makes us move. It's like the gate 51 in your human design chart, the gate of shock, right? Then we also have this happening right at the ascendant, right in just over the ascendant into the first house. I know I was using a thicker line, so you can't really tell, but Mercury is right here. And that's what this is pointing to, is this Mercury. So it's right at the ascendant, but in the first house. This is a personal change. If this was a person, this person would be undergoing a personal transformation. Literally, they may be getting a new hairdo. They may be, throwing over things that they've always done and always been in favor of something new for them personally. And then the other corner of this is occurring in this person's, if this were a person's, 4th house, home and family roots. They may be, when I look at this from a distance, I would say, oh, yeah, you are doing some key things to lay the foundation for what is to come, for what you're building next. But it is going to require some change on your part to be able to do it. And it may be like emotional goodbyes. It might be emotional letting go of something in favor of something else. So there's how we read that. Now, in another person's chart, it might be in a completely different place. 3 other houses are being affected in your life, and you can almost just tune in and show in your own world what's changing in your life, and you could probably pick this out, right? Literally. You could probably, by just the things that are happening in your own personal life and the area of your life that's being affected like this, you could probably guess where it's happening in your own personal chart, right? So let's see what people's questions are about this. Colleen says, do the collective houses change from Seattle to New York to London, etc.? Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And that's why we can't really have this conversation in terms of houses, because it would be different, right? Because of the change in the geographic location. Now, I've got this aligned with Seattle, I believe. So everybody on the West Coast would probably look similar to this at that time. I drew this chart this morning at 6:11 my time. So now, that would be different time zones for everybody across the nation and across the world. So it's going to change. That's why it's so important when we do astrology that we have your birth time and birthplace, because it changes, right? It changes what the chart looks like. So, Diana, good morning to you. I was eating lunch and someone at the table put down on the floor 3 chocolate kisses near my dog on purpose. I mentioned it to her. Oh, I dropped them. I don't like your dog. I moved and did not say anything, and that stuck with me. That's interesting. As in, the thought you had was that she was purposely putting them in front of your dog, knowing chocolate isn't good for dogs, right? Or at least that's the thought. That might be, whether that's true or not, who knows? Um, but it's interesting what people will do, right? Keep your dog safe, Diana. Colleen says, I was born on a full moon, so I'm opposite from moon actual phase. Right? Yes, you are. Right? So when there's when there's a new, well, I don't remember where your moon is, sweetie. I can't remember. Is it in Scorpio? So when the moon is new and it's in the opposite sign, that's when you're having the opposite experience. Does that make sense? Stephanie, I said good morning to you. Let's see. Um, okay, Cindy, how do I find where my new moon is? If you're looking at your natal chart, which I'm guessing you are, find the moon, right? Wherever the moon is in your chart is your new moon, your personal new moon. It doesn't matter that the moon wasn't in a new moon phase. It's just that's your personal new moon in that phase. Okay. Mimi says, I often pull up my chart on Astrodienst with the transits. Yeah, you can. Everybody, you can do this. There's a site called astro.com. And when you get there, it says Astrodienst. I think it's a German site, perhaps, but it's all in English. And you can put in your birth information and get your own personal charts. I use that all the time to get people's charts. That's where this comes from. You see this little symbol here? That's Astro. All righty. Let's see. So today, Diana, to your point, in today, because this energy is happening in such a smooth flow, and yesterday, and likely on Sunday, and into the next couple of days, it may be people who trigger you, and they trigger the wound, and they're triggering parts of yourself that is almost like this is like the perfect opportunity for you to look into what it is that all these things mean for you individually. If you're triggered by incidences, things that happen in your life, then you really, really, really want to pay attention to what's happening. And what does it mean for you? Is it something that you are judging yourself for? Is it something that harkens back to the past that you are remembering, and it's something that hurt then, and now it's triggering that same soft spot within you? Is it something that you judge other people for? Because that happens too, right? You judge other people for the same thing. So it's a possibility, but it doesn't, there's so many different things that I could tell you it means, but you have to look at it for yourself. You have to ask yourself the question, what does this mean for me? Why am I seeing this here? And then that part of you gets to heal through it. It's about being responsible for yourself, for your reactions, for how you're feeling. And, even if it is, I absolutely love animals, dogs. I love dogs. If someone were to try to purposely hurt my dog, I would be quite irritated with them as well. So there are things like that that happen that you signal you that perhaps you're around the wrong people, or that in the future you keep your dog away from that particular person. And there may be no further meaning to it than that, just superficial. I see this person is having an issue with animals, and I'm going to keep my animal away from her. It could be just that simple. Now, there may be something deeper going on. I don't know. Only you know what it means for you. So you get to work on that. There was something else I was just going to say about that. What was it? It's interesting because I thought I was drawing a card for myself this morning. I cut the tip of my finger yesterday, day before, and it hurts. So I'm messing with it because I just accidentally hit it. Anyway, I drew this card this morning, and I thought it was my card. Could be. It could be my card. But I think it's everybody's card, because when I was looking through the gates this morning to see where the planets were, I realized Mars had made a move out of the gate it had been sitting at into gate 63. Gate 63 is up here in the head. Switching to human design now. 63 is up here in the head. You see it right here, right? And gate 63 is the gate of doubt, but it is in its highest expression. It is the gate of truth. And in its gift, its inquiry, always asking, asking, what does this mean to me? Why is this showing up in my life? Why am I feeling this? What am I feeling? Does this make me happy? You can just keep asking all kinds of questions. In its lowest expression, it is doubt, which often means it can be doubt. We doubt what other people are saying to us. We may doubt information that we're hearing, but often it gets turned inward to self-doubt. And so we have to be careful right now that things that people say to us, the wounds that come up, that we don't take them and run into self-doubt with them. But this is the card that I drew this morning, and I couldn't believe it then when I looked later and saw where the gate that Mars was sitting at. Truth be told, that's our owl, our little owl, and it's all about truth. So I'm going to go ahead and read the card to you because I don't know, maybe it's just something that I thought was for me this morning, but is for all of us. It's card number 14. Here we go. Its essential meaning is honesty, accepting things at face value, coming out of denial, the willingness to be transparent, clarity of communication. There is the truth, which is the essence of a thing, and then there is a truth, subjective according to the philosophy of the adherent or believer. This is not a time for debate about which truth is truer. This is a time when you are called to proclaim your truth out loud and be willing to be transparent, honest, and open in your communication with others and with yourself. Nothing less than surrender to what is, peeling off the layers of denial that kept you tied to an illusion will set you free. Be authentic and gloriously flawed, and spirit will answer with miracles. I love that. I'm also going to read the protection message because it was unclear whether it was sideways, upside down, or whatever. So I'm going to read that just in case. Where are you being dishonest with yourself or others? If you're unhappy in any area of your life, look for signs of denial. Remember, Mars is almost in a conjunction with Neptune. Neptune has been sitting at this gate for a while. So Mars joining Neptune later in the week is really about denial. And where are we not telling the truth? Where are we not being told the truth? So it is for us to take a look deeper into everything that we are being told. This can also pertain to others being misleading or withholding or acting from hidden agendas. Now is the time to say no to dishonesty in all forms. Ask for the truth, even if you don't like what you hear. Acknowledging it will be key to a beautiful new future where you no longer labor under the heavy burdens that deceit and denial impose upon you. Set yourself free. Nothing less than truth is required now. That means telling yourself the truth as well. So interesting, right? I'm always fascinated by how that happens, how the cards will come out. I don't know. I just picked up the cards this morning and thought, okay, I know why I decided I was going to pull a card for myself, because I realized that Saturn is moved to the 8th degree of Capricorn, which is an empty spot in a pattern that I have in my chart. And with Saturn filling that spot, I was feeling a little like there's something karmic going on and I need to look at it deeper. So I was pulling a card to see if I could. That's even why I'm wearing my Saturn earrings this morning. I'm wearing my Saturn earrings this morning to honor the fact that Saturn is being prominently displayed in my life at the moment, and why. So I pulled that card. And then I realized that Mars was sitting at the gate of truth. So there's something, the highest gift of which is truth. In the lowest expression, it's doubt. So it is, let me reframe that information in a way that makes sense through the gene keys, is that we are traveling from doubt to truth through inquiry, down the path of inquiry. And it is self-inquiry, right? Asking those important questions, asking the difficult questions at times even. Whoa. Good morning, Suzanne. Angel number 5. We were looking for you yesterday because the card we drew for the week was, it was number 21. I remember that. What was card number 21? Does anybody remember? Hold on. There's probably a table of contents here. 21 was, oh yeah, clean it up. Clean it up was our card yesterday. So anyway, Thank you, Suzanne, for putting up angel number 5 there. Patricia Woods, I've been triggered for the past 3 days, and what I am seeing is that I need to stand up for myself and speak up and find my voice instead of keeping it inside and becoming sick. Oh, big one for a lot of people. Isn't that true? Diana says she's working on it. Diana, the energy of betrayal, that's a huge one. That's a huge, huge, huge energy betrayal, right? And it's also very much in Pisces, in the water signs. It's a betrayal of your emotions, a betrayal of you personally. Good morning, Kathy Miller. Colleen says, yes, thank you. Makes sense. Good morning, Tom. My natal moon is Aquarius, but it's in Scorpio today. Run away. Yeah. Mimi says, oh, we already talked about that. So some really interesting information coming up for us today about wounding, about healing, about looking deeper within, about using our intuition to be in the right place at the right time with the right people, with the right opportunities, and not pushing. Again, we are not pushing. The sun and earth, which I alluded to yesterday, are sitting at the gate 5 and 35. Over here's the sun. Oh, never mind. I'm not even going to show it because it's being bad. So the sun at gate 5, which is in its lowest expression, impatience. In its gift, it is patience. And in the highest expression, it's timelessness, the time of no time. And the earth, remember, is the trigger point. The trigger point is hunger. And then it moves from hunger to adventure. And from adventure, the highest expression is boundlessness. Boundlessness, no boundaries, right? The ability to grow beyond. But hunger and impatience. So, and I dare say it's not talking about, your stomach hunger where you could just go, eat something and be satisfied. This is the hunger. That hunger that takes you on the path of adventure to discover boundlessness. But also hunger then drives, remember the trigger is hunger, the wanting of adventure, the wanting of something that you become impatient. It's triggering the sun in impatience. But patience is what is called for. Adventure comes to those who wait, I guess. And boundlessness is related to timelessness. And that is the energy we have for the whole of the week. So imagine this, you put a new moon in a week where the sun and the earth are both sitting. In fact, the new moon then is also at this gate of patience, needing patience, of being likely impatient to get somewhere, impatient to see results, impatient to get answers, impatient to know when to start something. And then that feeding into where Mars is located, which is doubt, self-doubt. So this is an interesting internal sort of week, I think, right? The energy itself isn't necessarily difficult, but it's more of that energy of waiting, a little bit of waiting. Remember I said in my writing this week, like wait until next week to make big decisions, right? Mars conjunct Neptune, the sun, the sun was going to be in a challenge to Mars as well. So if that's the case, then maybe action isn't what's necessary right now. Maybe holding back, resisting the urge to give into that hunger out of impatience and to move forward, without real clear indications of where you're going. So more patience, more fun stuff that way. So today is a great day for your intuition, to be creative, to be emotionally connected. And that means be emotionally connected to yourself as well. Understand what's going deep within you. What is all of that emotional energy that you're feeling? And again, I woke up this morning with that feeling in my gut, that my solar plexus of something. I don't know what exactly, but it feels big, and it feels like something's time is about to come. So I think it's a good feeling. It didn't feel bad. It just feels like that, those butterflies in your stomach, when you're anticipating something coming. So anticipation, it's making me wait. It's like the ketchup. You guys remember the Heinz ketchup? Or maybe it's, I don't know, whatever ketchup company it was. Colleen says so much need for patience is coming up, and I have like negative 87 amount of patience. Yes, I get it. I get it. Yesterday I was really working yesterday, getting charts finished or getting reports done, and I still didn't finish them all. I just craziness, right? And I'm feeling under the gun now because tomorrow is the webinar, and it is at 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. East Coast time. If you've not registered yet for it and want to, you still can do that by going to my website, www.living-astrology.com, and clicking on the top right corner, it says Astrology for 2019 webinar. Let me write my website here so you can still register for that. And so I have a lot of work to do to get that ready, or to, make sure that everything is complete with that. So I was putting a lot of pressure on myself, and impatient, Colleen, I get you, about getting it done, just getting it done, being done. It's crazy, right? But I know everything is always going to work out correctly and in the right and perfect way. So I have to relinquish that. But I too have to remind myself on a daily basis, have patience, be patient. And I have a lot of patience for everybody else and not usually for myself. And that, I think a lot of us are that way, right? Where I've had patience with my kids, I have patience with my grandkids, I have patience with clients that ask me the same questions 10 times over in 10 different ways. But when it comes to me, I don't always have patience for myself. And right now, I'm not being very patient with myself because I'm feeling this pressure. So I get it. I get it. And I remind myself on a daily basis that patience is what is called for right now. That isn't always the way it is, right? We are coming to a time where things were going to move. By the way, I wanted to show you, when you are in the webinar tomorrow, you're going to get the offer for what is literally a discounted transit reading for 2019. And I wanted to show you what that looks like, if I can do that here, because there, in your personal chart, there seems to be about two key axes that are being triggered for this particular year. And I discovered that because, of course, I test these readings that I do with people ahead of time. So I've been sort of looking at this. And let me see if I can show. I'm going to highlight these axes here, and I'm looking at Tam's chart right now. So I'm going to show you what a transit chart for 2019 is going to look like for you all. And it looks like a mess, right? But what I want to show to you is this here. In everybody's chart right now, there are either two axes, because this is the first house, its opposite house is the seventh. This is the second house, and its opposite is the eighth. So these form axes. And is these two axes that are going to be hit by all of the eclipses in 2019. So this is a year where there's a lot of very concentrated energy in two, maybe three specific areas of your chart. And these energies over here in this particular chart are feeding into those other axes, right? This is the path of Jupiter in its growth for the year. I also outlined in this chart 3 specific Mercury retrograde areas. Note that 2 of them feed into the same axes. So this year seems very sort of concentrated, if you will, on specific areas in your chart. Knowing that ahead of time is priceless, right? Knowing that ahead of time, I can tell you, and Tam will probably share this with you tomorrow during the webinar, she nearly burst into tears because of the ability to see ahead at what is coming and what to watch out for, the challenge and the opportunity. And I did another lady last week, I mean, and hers was like this, but she has wider houses. And so for her, it was across one specific axis. Again, priceless, right? To know where is all this happening. And this is a look ahead for the whole year. So, tomorrow during the webinar, I'm going to be talking about the general ideas that are happening. But then the offer is for you to be able to get a personalized look at what is going on for you personally so that you can be in the know about what's going on in your own chart. And typically, a reading like that would be $129, and I discounted it to $89 and gave you the option to buy a second one for a friend or for a spouse or as a gift to give to somebody for half price. So that's a deal that's coming up tomorrow for those of you who have registered for the webinar. And it is only available to those people who are in the webinar. So more reason to get yourself engaged in the webinar for tomorrow. That is it for me today. Any questions from anybody? I don't see any here. For those of you, some of you who asked questions here within the chat, I probably will not have time to look at personal charts today or tomorrow. Once we get to Thursday, things free up a little bit for me. So in all honesty, don't expect me to be able to answer you with any kind of depth until then. And that is because I've got to get the rest of the work done on the webinar. I want to remind you guys that in the webinar tomorrow, we also have Angie Witzel, who, as you know, does the starseed work. She is a special guest coming on to give us her psychic impressions of what 2019 is bringing up. Natasha Venter, who we see here in the morning, she's our angel reader, will also be on as my guest to talk about what she sees coming up from the angels or through the cards. I also have Tam that will be joining me. And I think also that Rebecca Eigen, who you might remember, she was the astrologer that began to talk to us about Jungian concepts of relationships. I asked her to join us. She doesn't really do predictive astrology, but she could probably give us some clues about how to move through our relationships as we move into 2019. So I have some special guests for you as well, and I'm really excited to hear what they have to say too, because I always like to see if it validates, if it opens up a new pathway for us or what have you. So I'm really excited about that. I will see you all here tomorrow morning. Thank you so much for joining me today. I wish you all a blessed day. Mwah! See you tomorrow. Bye for now.